I'm here
Yes.
today with Per Nilsson of Scar Symmetry to talk about the Singularity Phase 2 Xenotaph out June 9th on Nuclear Blast. First of all, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down and talk to me about this new record, part two of a three-part trilogy. And let's start off our conversation with that. What is the biggest hurdle, the biggest mountain you had to climb when you decided to throw yourself into a concept trilogy?
Uh, I don't know. In a way, it's been similar to just writing an album like we used to do. Uh, the idea for it came out of me being sort of a little bit tired of doing full length albums, and and this is before we did phase one, right? So uh, I've felt like it would be exciting to try to do something different, and then I had the idea of maybe we could do EPs for a while. So instead of doing this like 50-minute chunks of music, we could do like 20 or 25, something like that. Um, and maybe do like a trilogy and tie it together. And I had the idea to write about the technological singularity as a sort of dystopian sci-fi story. Uh, so we, or our drummer, who is our lyricist, he came up with a three-part synopsis that we could have, yeah, as a storyline for the EPs. But as things progressed, the whole thing just inflated and became bigger, took on a life of its own, and we realized that it couldn't be EPs, it needed to be albums. And phase one is only, I think it's 43 minutes, so it's not a very long album of today's standards, but still it's not an EP. It's an album length, and phase two is a little bit longer. Uh, so there was a difference from doing regular albums, and that is in that we had a concept and we had a sort storyline, and I also had an sort of vision of what I wanted for each part of the trilogy to be in musically, because if it's a trilogy, not only need each album need to have a sort of a
An arch.
yeah, so it also needs to be like a musical story across the three albums. So yeah.
So when you sit down to create this, do you immediately start working on all three? Or did you have an overall idea of what all three were going to be about, but you concentrating your efforts on one by one? And then the way the first one comes about, that is going to have an impact on the second, and then the second is going to have an impact on the third. How was it?
Yeah, I wrote the first album as a like I tried to sort of approach it as a standalone thing. Not I didn't think too much about what the next album was gonna be like, because I wanted for phase one to be in a way its own thing, its own like musically self-contained thing. Lyrically, obviously, everyone already knows that it's gonna be part of a bigger thing. But musically, I wanted the album to have a start and a finish that felt self-contained in a way, and phase one ends with the same melody that it starts with, so it feels like you come full circle in a way, and you can circle back to the end, to the start, and listen all over again if you want to have more. Uh, and phase two, I intentionally left it a little bit more open-ended. It it starts in a kind of similar fashion as phase one ends, because phase one ends with the song Technocalyptic Cybergeddon. Crazy
Tongue
song
twister.
title, right? Yeah, so it ends on that one, and it's a pretty, like, mostly a pretty brutal song with a lot of blast beats. So first song of the new album starts also with blast beats with a kind of similar vibe, and then it sort of uses a melody from Technocalyptic, and it's turned from like an epic breakdown into a really fast riff in the midsection. So it's kind of themed together like that, and so the album starts as a continuation with phase one to sort of tie it together, but it ends more open-endedly with almost like as a little
Cliffhanger.
cliffhanger
Yeah.
question mark, like, oh, because the last song kind of like fizzles out, and then there's like a long outro with a like a sad distorted synthesizer there, bing bang bang, and you're like, oh, it ends like this, like it's gotta be more, right? uh yeah, so phase three is uh needs to sort of answer the questions uh, musically and lyrically.
Is it difficult for you? Because one of the things that I really enjoyed about this record is that it didn't feel like it was longer than its predecessor, because you become engaged with the experience right from the get-go. It's an album that has beginning, middle, and end, even though the end is open-ended. But I find it so intriguing, the fact that you're able to give each song incredible creativity and incredible quality, but the way they connect with one another, it's also really interesting. You never feel like there's a break or a pause, or forcing the listener to reset as you're moving along. Is that something that you look at once the songs are done, and maybe you tweaking a little bit here and there in order to create that more, balanced effect throughout the record? How's it work for you?
Yeah, I think the the order of the songs on an album is important, and like the songs on both phase one and two are not necessarily in like chronological order of like the storyline. It's more like, what do you call it, an anthology, where there are like stories that like are from this universe that we have imagined. Um, so that like gave me some creative freedom to just write songs that I would fit, the what I envisioned, and then I could like rearrange the order a little bit. I knew that the song Cenotaph was gonna be the ending song, and Chrononautilus was gonna be the opener, but in between there was some room for maneuvering
Maneuver.
things around. Yeah, and and it's like if you have a really fast song, then maybe you want to go into something that's a little bit different, and it was also important to show off certain things of the album early on, in the like first third of the songs, which is why like a song like Altergeist, which is a maybe the most like brutal song of the album, which is like there's so much crazy blast beats, and like musically the chord progressions are kind of dark, and
Mhm.
it's not like the typical happy uh, pop chorus Scar Symmetry song. So it's a different beast, and it's song number four, because I felt it also it was important to have that early on, so because it's like it gives you it almost gives you even more the impression that this album has more of the brutal stuff. I didn't want to hide that song away at the end. I wanted to have this kind of uh, atypical Scar Symmetry track to stand out in a way.
I thought was in the right spot, because it feels like it lets the listener, the first couple of songs that lets the listener get into the experience of the album. You get hit with that song, but then you have enough time to kind of digest that track as you're listening to other tracks. I think if it's at the end of the record, it would be too jolting for the listener to get it at the end, and then never mind the cliffhanger. Now you're dealing with a song and a cliffhanger. I just it would feel like almost
Mhm.
like the album would be incomplete, perhaps, if that was the format. At least that's my perception.
Yeah, and I guess I thought about it like that in a way. And you want to like create a little journey for the listener
Yeah.
to keep the interest up and yeah.
When you were putting this trilogy together, you released an album, then the pandemic hits. There's 9 years between both records. Did you second guess yourself and you're like, the gods are against me or the aliens are against me, whatever it is that's up there, and maybe this whole trilogy wasn't such a good idea after all?
Uh, I don't know. This second phase was written in 2016.
Oh,
So
okay.
so for us the songs are actually quite old. They're not that much newer than phase 1. And and for me it feels like phase 1 and phase 2 were written in like a an era of my life that has passed for it's quite some time ago. And most of the like principal recordings were done in 16 and 17. And then I kind of moved away from the band for a few years to tour with Nocturnal Rites in Meshuggah, and uh, and then I became a dad in 19, and then the pandemic hit, and during those kind of off years, we were never on a total hiatus. We still did some shows every now and then, and I kept slowly working on the album. But the songs are from that era. So for me, phase 1 and 2 are they they feel similar, like to my heart. They are from the same place, and it's very interesting because I'm about to start writing for the next thing we do with the band, and all these things have happened. Like career wise, I've toured with the other bands and did other things, and like I became a father with everything that how that changes you as a person, and the pandemic and coming back. Like there's so many things that are different, and I'm really excited about being creative again with Scar Symmetry, and it's going to be interesting to see what comes out. But I try to not like second guess things. I try to, whenever I write and I'm creative, I'm mostly like in my own bubble. So I'm sitting in this chair in this room. I have blurred the screen because the room is so untidy right now. Uh, like I guess you can see that there's just stuff all over the place. There's guitars lying around everywhere. But this is my creative place, and I'm in my bubble and I'm working, and I can't I can't spend too much time thinking what Pedro Almeida or any other person is gonna think about it. Like it's great if people dig it, but it needs to pass like my
Your
taste
taste
and
test.
judgment. Yeah.
Yeah, your very own taste test. When you're creating a sci-fi trilogy, or even if you were just doing one single record, and is it interesting to you that the world, the way it's moving, and how quickly things are moving, what was sci-fi yesterday, it's reality today? Does that intrigue you?
Very much, very much. I think it's yeah, it's kind of scary in a way, but it's also like there's so much promise in it. It's like AI seems like it's gonna be such a immensely powerful thing for everyone. Like right now when we have like everyone who's got access to like internet
Mhm.
can go like have some actual uh, help from like chat gpt in in their work lives. Like you can there are people that like who ask chat gpts to write simple like scripts and like programming and that they can actually use. So and and it can write some really compelling texts, and a lot of that is like starting to seep into our everyday lives, and it's gonna be like now we're super used to googling things like or whatever your favorite search engine is, like you think of something like, oh, what was the name of that band, or you want to check something, or what what score did that movie get, like should I watch it? So you have access to all these things, you are so used to it. And for me, like for example, like ChatGPT seems to me like it's almost like a search engine in a way that is has some intelligence, and you can be like, you're working on something like I want to like song lyrics, for example. You have two lines that you really like, and you need six more or something, and you can like, I'm writing about this, I got these two lines, can you finish it? And the AI comes up with, can give you like a few different alternatives that you can choose from, and you can take it, and you can continue working on it, but it's like it can be like interweaved with what we do. It doesn't need to only be like taking over things. It can be something that will be of great use, but it's so powerful that it's like it's just begun.
Yeah, it's very new. And then I was going to ask you that as a musician, do you worry about the great power that comes with it, of somebody creating a scarce symmetry song based on, on this new AI technology, and perhaps not creating, not making the band obsolete per se, but kind of replacing what the band is doing?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm afraid, uh, because it's so hard to me to imagine what it's gonna be like. It's so uh, I can't really like imagine where it will lead. And I've heard people talking about how like 40-50% of all the jobs are gonna be displaced or gone. That they're gonna be automated. And yeah, and what's gonna happen, because like we are at the doorstep of AI being able to create music, and being able to create music that would sound like Scar Symmetry. It would sound like me playing solos, and Lars and Robert, or Christian, like, or whoever. Scar Symmetry with David Coverdale on vocals. Stuff like that. That it's like almost there. And so I mean, I believe that's gonna be a, a reality very soon, that people can just do mashups by AI, for example. Uh, so the like question is AI gonna come up with stuff that's not only uh, like for fun, like a novelty. Like I heard, I watched, Rick Beato did a video on AI music where they was like some song, and it had, it was a Paul McCartney song, one of his like later year songs when he's in his 70s, and someone did like they changed, with AI, they changed his vocals to a young Paul McCartney
Oh,
singing
wow.
the same song, and it was like, oh shit, it sounds like young Paul McCartney. It had a little bit some artifacts, but not too many. And then they changed and had John Lennon
Oh, wow.
sing it, and it was like, holy crap, this kind of sounds like John Lennon, and like this is gonna be so much better in just a few years. I'm sure
Yeah,
gonna be
technology is going to
faster
improve
than we
as
think.
well.
Yeah, so uh, but what's but that's like almost like, it's mostly for fun. It's not like, oh, finally we can listen to this song with John Lennon. Like, I don't think that's gonna be very
I don't
interesting.
think that's the driving force.
That's gonna wear out. But what's gonna happen when AI starts to like compose unique songs that are imagined by the AI from all the data that it has uh, studied? What's gonna happen when AI produces music that is gonna sound absolutely wonderful for me and for you, and when we're gonna be like, oh wow, this is so amazing. I just wanna listen to this stuff all day.
I don't know. That kind of it's intriguing. I think the word it's not like me personally. I'm not afraid of it, but I'm intrigued by where will this path lead because with great power comes great responsibility, like Spider-Man would say. So it's definitely something that I think we're at the cusp. We're starting to see the first steps. And you mentioned earlier that
Yeah.
you're working on the next Scar Symmetry record. Will Phase 3 be darker, brighter, hopeful, or with more despair than Phase 2?
I don't want to say. I think it's too early to say. I don't want to spoil the ending.
So you're gonna force us to wait and see once the album comes out. I like that. It that adds to the cliffhanger that the record has. So you're just adding to that
Yeah,
cliffhanger. So I like your approach. One last
because
question.
you're just getting the Empire Strikes Back, so we don't need to worry about Return of the Jedi.
That's I couldn't have said it better myself. That's a great analogy. I love it.
Yeah.
One last question for you. Considering that you're deeply working on these three records, the second album is coming out in a couple of weeks. You're already thinking about the third album. Um, the world of beyond the world of AI, because this record has the aliens play a very interesting role, almost like as our saviors, almost like our gods that come to rescue us. Um, are you someone who believes in aliens? Like, what's your take in terms of life outside of our blue sphere?
Uh, I guess it's not something that I think about all that much. It's not something that like plays a part in my everyday life. Uh, I mean, I think probably like the plain like numbers, statistics, or whatever speaks in favor of there being intelligent life or just life in other places. It seems like if the universe is as big as they say, with millions and trillions of stars and planets and stuff, it seems almost crazy that life would only exist on this one little blue planet.
Yeah, the probabilities are probably pushing us towards that direction. And I love
Yeah,
how you tied in two really interesting topics. Like, I mean, when you were writing it, maybe they were not as interesting as they are now, but you wrote something that's kind of becoming reality. The talk about alien life is really in the forefront now more than ever, with videos being disclosed by the governments and that kind of stuff. AI
yeah,
now creating music, all of this stuff. It's just really interesting that what was a vision is kind of becoming reality, and your music is playing a role in it. So really interesting
yeah,
to listen to this record from that mind with that mindset, with that perspective.
yeah. We've been talking a little bit about that we decided to do a trilogy about AI turning malevolent, so like a sci-fi story, and now we are here where AI is actually on the rise, and maybe it came sooner than we thought, even though we kind of figured it would come soon, and here we are at the beginning of what we wrote about, sort of, and then but phase two now like introduces the ultra terrestrials, uh, and but then there was some time ago when there was like unidentified flying objects in the US, and like there were a few balloons that they shot down, and
Shut down, yeah.
is it the Chinese spies, or and for
I'm
a
in
while I was like,
Canada.
holy shit, is this gonna become real too?
Yeah, like, I'm in Canada, and we shut down a bunch here too. Like they were flying over our airspace as well. And to be honest with you, not much has been said about it since. So it the least amount of information you get, the more your mind works, and the more your mind
Yeah,
wonders. And for you guys, I guess that's great motivation and inspiration. But for the rest of us, makes us wonder what's flying above our heads sometimes. So interesting times to
yeah,
live in.
indeed.
Well, Part, thank you very much for your time today. Once again, I know you're a busy guy, so thank you for taking the time to talk to me about the record. I absolutely love the album. For a textured album like this, a very layered album, was such an easy experience to sit through it and listen and enjoy and be taking on this incredible journey that you guys put together on this phase two. So now that I've digested that, I'm still enjoying it, but definitely looking forward to what that Return of the Jedi is going to be all about.
Yeah.
Take
Oh,
care.
thanks,
All the
man.
best.
Yep, and I'll see you next time.
Until next time.
Yes. Cheers, man. Have a good
Cheers.
day.